Right here, we've got the 1330 cam, 1:13 a.m. to 4:23. And I went through it and picked out all the timestamps where we can hear screams and yells. I wanted to make a chart of all this, which we will see shortly. So let's start by going over this. In this area right here, there's not much going on.
Oh, my bad. Just kidding. Welcome to Truth and Transparency. We are here. We are at MarcB's 101 school, Idaho schooling here. I think we have in chat Detective Blaker, Detective Mowry, Detective Payne. They're all here to really understand what happened here in the Idaho4 case. Again, guys, welcome. Happy Friday to everybody. Happy Friday. Idaho4, listen here, Dylan. I mean, you motherfucker, Bill Thompson. We're going to also play a couple more clips of Steve. Let's talk about it. The screams. Mark has got them all. I mean, here you go.
On from 1:13 to 1:30, but we can hear the voices. And right here you can see, whoa, Ethan, and that's at 1:19:36, and then his name again a few seconds later. And I've got the word voices in red so that we can see the voices pretty much.
Now, these are his, interpretations. I just care about, honestly, the screams.
Continue all the way through this all the way to 4:23. So here's 1:30 to 2 o'clock. And this red line with the X, that means that's a scream. And we'll listen to it in a little bit. And I think this particular one is probably Ethan, but we'll get to it shortly. This one right here, 1:55:58. 2:05, that's 7 seconds. That is actually when Eric Gower is seen on cam bringing Kaylee and Maddie home. We can actually hear this scream. They are still in the car. And there's the red X right there. And this one here, I think could be Xana. So you can see voices. And this here is the 1330 cam. So you can actually hear it louder. So this is the time frame we do not have any audio for. We got all these voices continuing. And then we got these yells right here. Oh my God.
Oh my God. Clear words.
God, and these are with the black line and the letter Y in black for yell. And we have another one right here.
2:21.
Female yells something, can't make out what she says. We'll listen to these shortly. There's the male voice yells, wait, wait, more voices. And then 2:25 is when we have audio on the 1112 cam. So that's why I split this segment right here, because that's where the audio begins. And in this segment here, we've got one yell and one female scream and a female yell. And this is pretty much what the Chapin said is the dark hour, as you will see shortly. The 2 o'clock to 3 o'clock, there's a lot of stuff going on. Here's 2:30, the yell, the scream. There's voices, squeals, voices. Another scream right there. Yell, stop, stop, stop. That's a male yell.
That's a male? Interesting. Remember Dylan? No.
That out. Scream, yell, scream. You scream.
Right here. Yeah. 2:50 and 39 seconds. That scream is just takes the cake for me. Right here. 2:50 and 39 to 40 seconds. That scream is unbelievable.
Stop it, stop. And it kind of stops for a little while. And then 3 o'clock, the only thing happening is the body cam comes on. And this will be interesting on the 1112 cam when we get to that. Okay, 3:30, we've got 3 yells. And those are pretty much all while Molly is here. Again, this is the 1330 cam, so we don't hear everything.
Molly gets there at 3:46.
Thing that we do on the 1112
Molly's also there at 2:50 though.
cam. And then 4 o'clock, we don't have anything registered here. So now let's go to the 1112. Okay, here's the 11.
What? Like, look at these idiots. Look
anything registered here. So
nothing. Yeah, these really started at 4. Get the fuck up out of here. And they definitely didn't start at 4:17. You can get the fuck up out of here with that shit too. Again, good morning. Welcome to the Transparency. We're not going to sugarcoat shit here. All right, so you guys can decide, but right here, you guys go find MarcB's
Now let's go to
channel. Just MarcB it up. MarcB. Nothing but the bees. Nothing but the motherfucking bees knees.
the 1112. Okay, here's the 1112. Starts at 225 to 423. And the sound pretty much starts immediately. We got stress female voice.
Remember, Dylan said she was not scared. She was stressed. MarcB comes with the stressor. The stress right here. Can't make this shit up. Can't make it up.
Voice right there, and a very loud male voice. Okay, so there's not actually any yell in this little time frame here, but there's very loud voices. Now here's the first female yell at 225. 12, stressed, a lot of stress. This is probably when the attack is happening, or one of the attacks, I should say. And right here you got a male yelling, and then here's that one scream at 227. That'll be the first one we listen to in a little bit, that red X right there. And then there's yelling after, right there. We'll be listening to some of the yelling. And this cell phone, by the way, that Crime Forensics picked up on, I actually found another one right here. 5 seconds before Molly leaves, 4 o'clock and 27 seconds. 2:30, we'll go through this quick. We got stress voice. But again, all these black lines right here, that's all the yells, and the reds are the screams. And we'll listen to a lot of those screams. Female scream, yells, stress voices, scream, yelling. And then he says, stop, stop, stop. Then there's yelling, more yelling, stress, voices. Okay, here's where the body cam turns on. And this is interesting right here, because right there, stop it, stop. We actually hear that on body cam. We hear it on 1112 and 1330, and we'll listen to that shortly. And this one here, 25718, help me, please, help me. I don't know if anybody else will be able to hear that, but it's almost clear as day for me. So we'll play that one and see if you can hear.
MarcB, if it's clear as day for you, baby, it's clear as day for me. Okay? That's how we sink in. Okay?
If not, you need headphones to be able.
Get your headphones out. I don't want to hear one person say, I can't hear anything. Okay, we are here. We are here to learn. And you're going to get your damn earbuds in, okay?
To hear it. Okay, 3 o'clock, things slow down somewhat. But this one right here, I can hear it, but a couple of friends can't hear it. But it's an oh my God by a female.
MarcB had a card game party the other night, and he made all of his friends take a break from playing cards. They were playing high limit stakes poker over there. And he made all of his friends stop smoking chain cigarettes, and he made all of his friends listen to this shit. They're just beside themselves.
Female voice, and it's pretty serious if you can get to hear this. We're not going to play it because you won't be able to hear it. You need headphones, absolutely. There's not much yelling actually in this time frame here, but you can see the voices continue through. And then right here, there's a gal, female voice, almost nonstop for 1 minute and 5 seconds. And then this male yells, you better shut up. I can hear it. You might not be able to. We'll see. So there's just a whole.
You better shut the fuck up. You hear me? You better shut up now. Or your ass is grass too. You hear me?
Bunch of voices here. And then at 3:30, there's a couple of yells, right? You can see them right there and there, which would be female yells. And then more voices. Now, right before Molly gets here, there's actually a scream, help me. And we'll listen to that one shortly. That's just a few minutes, because here's where Molly shows up, right here. Molly enters, 3:46:09. And then when she gets here, there's a whole bunch of stuff going on, as you can see.
Mm-hmm. And Molly's got that long hair, brown hair, even like a red tint to it a little bit, you know.
Stress, yell. And then this one, here's a scream and a yell. The number one and the number one, here's a yell. And number one, there was actually more yelling there, but it's all one segment. So I backed off. There was about 5 more yells, but I backed off on it because it's all within a short time frame, about 3:47 to 3:49, about a 2 minute and 15 second segment. So that's more stress at 3:56:40.
Remember, Dylan said that she testified that she was stressed. Not scared.
A lot of thuds going on, loading, and then at 4 o'clock, that's where Molly leaves. And here's that cell phone again. 5 seconds before she leaves, a cell phone only rings for like 1 or 2 seconds. And that's where it happened earlier, 2:27:20.
That's Molly's phone alerting her that she has another DoorDash.
Just highlighted a couple things. We're not going to really listen to these. Gasping, agitated female voice for 32 seconds, a male voice and female voice. And I heard I love you. That's strange at 4:02, 58 and 59 seconds. And then barely audible, stay back, stay back. That's a male voice. Female voice talking urgently for 7 seconds right before the thud.
Now that's so interesting. Stay back, because that's what that's what they said that happened, earlier. I mean, later. Hunter Johnson was saying, stay back. Okay. Like Dylan's just confusing everything, but she's giving it away. She's totally giving it away in her interviews that, yeah, we have a lot of problems here.
Thud sounds like furniture falling or crashing against something. And then right after the thud, it sounds possibly like a female crying. And then that's
this whimper or whatever, but like
the end of it. So let's take a look.
I just don't believe that. I believe that it's it could even be Dylan.
At the charts now. Here's the 1330 cam.
Here's the charts. It's off the charts, guys. 7 screams, 0 stress voices, 12 yells. This is all between 1:13 and 4:23 on the 1330 cam. Okay, and look at where they're all center line. Like, look at 1:31 to 2, 2:25 to 2:30, 2:31 to 3. Okay, yells, same thing. Between 3:31 and 4, that's when we lost the camera of the 1320 cam. Nothing is going on. Okay, when Dylan is saying that it is, pretty much at 4:20. Look at this. Nothing, Dylan. Nothing. Pretty much at 4. Look at 0, 0, 0. This is how, let the jury listen to this. Nothing was happening at 4. Dylan, come on now, girl.
1:13 a.m. to 4:23. And as you can see, 1:13 to 1:30, there's nothing going on. 4:01 to 4:23, we got nothing going on here, and nothing in the stress voices category because those can only be heard on the 1112 camera. So right here at 1:31 to 2, we got 2 screams. One is at 1:40 that I believe could be Ethan. The other one is at 1:55, right around 1:56 that I believe could be Xana. And we will be listening to those. The one scream at 2:25 to 2:30, and then the 4 at 2:31 to 3 o'clock. Also, these yells, here's the yells column right here, are heard on the 1330 cam. We will be listening to these because this black line right here and these two, that's above 2:25 a.m. where we have no audio for 1112 cam. And these could be some of the reasons why we have no audio, because they'd be so close up. It would be too telling for them to want to have us know this. Okay, let's take a peek at the 1112 chart now. Here's the
1112. This is the only one I care about because this is what was going to be heavily relied upon by the jury.
12, 2:25 a.m.
Again, guys, look at 4 to 4:23. Nothing. That's why, to me, I tell people all the time when they say, Lana, did you hear, like, this is what they say? You guys, it's the same for me with the Delphi case, okay? If you try to tell somebody beforehand what it says, that to me is prejudicial. Now you hear that before it, like you cannot do that. So for me, I don't care what is being said, and neither should you. What you should care about is the fucking noise. There is noise, okay? That's all that matters. There's noise. And when Bethany and Dylan are trying to say, did you hear, pretty much at 4. Fuck pretty much at 4. Nothing is happening at 4. Nothing. And that tells me that Dylan knew, okay, that they would then look around like 4:30, right, and see what car is speeding away. And that's the red herring of this case, is the car. And this is how it gets set up. It gets set up by somebody that's lying. And it looks good, like, oh yeah, we have these text messages. Fuck your text messages. They don't mean shit because it's being talked about after the fact. It's like if I was to get in a car accident and then I text you an hour later, like after I'm done dealing with it, like, oh my God, you'll never believe what just happened to me. Did it happen right then? No, it happened an hour ago. But, or you hit me up and you say, Lana, where have you, like, Lana, you're trying to like text me or call me. And then I write you and say, oh my God, I just got in a car accident. I didn't just get in a car accident. I got in a car accident an hour ago. But, like it's.
AM, where the sound begins, to 4:23. And then right here, loud voices not included in chart. Only the screams and the yells, and of course the stress voices. So we have a total of 8 screams here. All screams heard on 1330 cam are in here. One of these 5 is not heard on the 1330 cam. And
one of the 5. That's it. It's loud.
Not all yell.
I've been there. Okay. When we were there, I had Bella go stand at the one end by the house, and I went and stood by 1330 cam. And I'm like, can we yell back and forth to each other? Can we hear each other? Oh, fuck yeah. Oh my God, everything carries and echoes over there. Like that to me that's like you have to take the jury there. Fuck even the house at this point. It was from you standing next to the house and you yelling to me, and we could like converse back and forth.
That are here are heard on the 1330 cam. In the 401 to 423 segment, it's all zeros. Also, 301 to 330, there's no screams, no stress voices, but there are a couple of yells. Most of everything happens between 2:31 and 3 o'clock. We got.
Yeah, it does, Daddy, doesn't it? That's when the shit starts getting heavy. That's when it's because people start realizing what the hell is in that house. The carnage.
5 screams, 11 stressed voices, 11 yells. But 2:25 to 2:30, that's a 5-minute segment, and there's quite a bit happening there. So you can imagine what was happening between 2 o'clock and 2:25 a.m. So we're going to start with this yell right here at 2:27 on the 1330 cam, because that's going to set the stage once we hear it on the 1330. We'll get to that in a minute. Okay, this screen starts in 2 seconds. This is the 1112 cam. Here we go. Now we'll go to the 1330. Okay, this one starts in 2 seconds at 2:27:12. Here we go. So you can see the volume's way lower. So now we're going to listen to the 1:40 a.m. scream that I believe could be Ethan. Okay, I believe it starts in 2 seconds at 1:40:26. Here we go. There you have it. At 1:55:58 in 2 seconds.
And that's not on the other one?
We'll hear a female screaming for about 7 seconds. Keep in mind, there you have it.
You guys, where is that on the, like, that's nuts, right? Because they're saying we don't have the audio during that time. Bullshit.
At 1:55:58 in 2 seconds, we'll hear a female screaming for about 7 seconds. Keep in mind, Eric Gower is on 1112 camera as we speak while He is driving in. These screams are going on. Here we go. 2 seconds. Okay, now we're going to go to 221:06. In 2 seconds, we'll hear, "Oh my God," from a female voice. Here goes. Now we'll go to 221:41. Okay, now we'll hear a female. I can't make out what she's saying, but here goes in 2 seconds at 41. Now we'll go to 222:06. Okay, in 2 seconds, we'll hear a male voice say, "Wait, wait." Here we go. Okay, we're going to listen to a 51-second segment here so that we can hear the female's stressed out voice, her pleading, and a male yelling. Here we go. It starts at 21 in 2 seconds. What I want to do here is just point out, how can Kaylee...
This video is so invaluable. So invaluable. And last night I was going to play it, but I was in character. I was in role last night. And I was like, you know what? If I play it this morning and I come and I just hit it right off the bat, hey, this is what we all need to listen to. This is what we need to be in session for. Because the Chapins early on said that 2 o'clock was a really, really dark hour. Okay. They were right. They had knowledge of stuff. And then everybody had to start being quiet. Because this was supposedly just, no, this is just people playing and having fun and partying. Just like how Molly tried to say that that's what was happening. Oh, everybody was out and everybody was partying. Really? Everybody went home early. There was only people at the Whites that were like a couple people. Everything that's convenient for them to be missing is missing. And then the next chart that we're gonna, I'll even do it myself, is to show where the undercovers are during all of this. Where's the plain clothes operation people? Where are they during these times?
Or Maddie possibly be calling Jack D at 2:26 to 2:52. Look how much yells and screams in this time frame here.
Okay, now one of my mods, good friend of the channels, I won't say who, she's like, you know, Jack D would have every reason to say that he didn't remember that phone call, because not because of like something that he did, but if he didn't believe Kaylee, like, oh my God, you got to get over here. Like, you're not going to like, and because Kaylee's a prankster, right? And he just didn't believe Kaylee to like come over. Okay. And then, he hangs up or whatever, or maybe he falls asleep. Okay. Because he's just like, whatever, like this, like, I'm not falling for one of your pranks again. Okay. Then, because it's Jack D calling Kaylee, they talked for that 17 minutes. And then it was Kaylee trying to call Jack D. Okay. And it's like, would you ever want to tell someone's parent that? And so I think there's a lot of weight there that I'm going to give. And she knows who she is. But there's things that you cannot deny what's happening. You cannot deny the noises. And then you cannot deny the silence that then Dylan says, and then it went silent. And it was like so silent after. And then that's when she just was like, went to bed. And then the whole like, well, we have to find out, well, why did really Bethany call her at, 4:19? Well, because of whatever she heard. And that wasn't part of anything. That was all after. But Dylan never calls Bethany first. Dylan wasn't going to.
The Y is the yells and the X is the screams. Look at this time frame. All these stress, everything. Look at all those. That's 242, 244.
And guess what? This is the undercovers just chilling at the Whites. And then what they do, they're like, we didn't stop the girls that we saw going in to the house. That's what Jacob Tisdall wrote on his report. We saw guys that were walking down and, but they didn't have, like, what?
How can they possibly be making a phone call at this time? If anything, they should be calling 911.
The reason I believe that they're not calling 911 is because
at 2:38:10 in 1 second, you'll hear a female yell. It's really not that loud, but it's immediate.
Because that's none of these people's first like thought. And like the help me, you gotta help me, please help me. Like, come on, please help me. Like, that could be somebody talking to actually somebody else to get them to come help them. Not the person that's like in like being hurt.
Immediately followed by males also yelling, probably to cover it. Here we go. 1 second. At 2:40:20, we'll hear another female yell, quite a bit louder than the last one, again followed by some male screams. Here we go. At 2:42:28, we'll hear a female screaming. It's not super loud, but it's followed by a male screaming. Here we go. At 2:50:41 in 1 second, we have another female scream. Here we go. At 2:57:18, I don't know if you'll be able to hear it. I can hear it. It'll be help me. 6 seconds later, help me please. 2 seconds later, help me. Here we go. In 2 seconds, at 2:58:18 will be the first one. And then 6 seconds later, the next one, and 2 seconds later, the next one. Here we go. Very sad. At 2:55:19 in 2 seconds, you'll hear a female voice saying, "Stop it, stop." Here we go. Now, here's the body cam. It's 2:55:14 in 2 seconds. At 2:55:16, you'll hear it. There's quite a bit of noise, but just focus in on the 16-second marker. Here we go.
19. 19. Yep. Okay. Is there a reason why you didn't stop back there?
There you have it. We're going to hear a male voice in 2 seconds say what I believe is, "You better shut up." For about a minute before this, constantly, you can hear a female voice going on. I believe he's telling her, "You better shut up." But I'm not playing that because you can barely hear it. You need headphones to hear it. So we'll hear him right now say, "You better shut up." Literally in 2 seconds at 3:15:21. Here we go. At 3:41:33 in 1 second, we hear a female voice scream, "Help me." This is about 5 minutes before Molly shows up. Here we go. 1 second from right now. Now all these here we go. 1 second from right now. Now all these.
Remember that eerie voice that Dylan was talking about?
1 second from right now. Now all these yells and that scream, this is all while Molly is here. But we're going to go ahead and listen to this one scream. We're not going to listen to all the yells because I think you guys get the point. So we'll go to 3:48:25, and in 2 seconds at 3:48:25, we'll hear the female scream followed by male yells. Here we go. These people were being tortured. Okay, we'll give it a try to see if you can hear that cell phone sound at 4 o'clock and 27 seconds, exactly 1 second from now.
I personally believe that somebody was playing music over it.
It's really hard to hear.
And that's like, remember when Dylan was like, there was music, you know, she says like Murphy and Kaylee were dancing. I remember the original, like, I mean, Dylan has given so many accounts, but it was about Ashley Banfield's source said that she had come out and said, you know, shut the fuck up, stop playing that music or whatever.
I heard it. I don't know if you can hear it. Here we go. Literally in 1 second. Listen. We'll try.
Okay, so let me ask you guys a question. If you own this video and you find out that your neighbors were killed, okay, and you're going and you're listening to this video because you're listening to it on your app. And when you're listening to it on your app, you're just not watching it, you're listening to it. How in the world is there nobody coming forward in any of the tips or when they're interviewed that we've come across so far talking about and saying, you need to hear these screams. You need to hear the screams. What do you guys think about that? This video was accessible to Jack D, everybody in that house. It was passed around to them, like the sorority people, the fraternity people, the parents. Nobody's saying, you got to hear these screams, dude. You got to hear these screams. think about every time we listen to our or watch our Ring camera. Okay, like not only are we looking to see what triggered it to go off to record in the first place, but then we're listening for stuff. I mean, is that what you do? I've never like was like, oh, let me just watch my camera and not listen. So when are we going to hear in one of these very first interviews anybody talking about the screams? Or somebody saying, like, remember, they're just supposed to be watching Vampire Diaries over there. There wasn't a party over there. It's Vampire Diaries, right? Is that what you do when you watch Vampire Diaries?
That one more time. In 1 second from right now. Here it goes again. There it is. I heard it. Hopefully you did. There you have it, folks. Hopefully this. Okay, we'll give it a try to see if you can hear that cell phone sound at 4 o'clock and 27 seconds, exactly 1 second from now. It's really hard to hear. I heard it. I don't know if you can hear it. Here we go, literally in 1 second. Listen. We'll try it one more time in 1 second from right now. Here it goes again. There it is. I heard it. Hopefully you did.
Right there. There you go. That's the chart. And this is what you just call off the charts. Okay, off the charts. Look at this shit. Nothing is happening between 4:01 and 4:23. Nothing. Okay, nothing. These killings were they were at separate times. Sorry.
Folks, hopefully this helps. Please leave a comment in the section below.
Okay, so now when we take this, so hang tight, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to back up the video just a second, and I'm going to compare it to now when you put this in the book timeline, which, hang on. Okay. Oopsies. All right. So what I started doing is I made a list, and so you guys can see it too, or at least hear it, you know. Okay. At 12:21 p.m. on Saturday, why didn't anybody look in to see why Maddie would have taken a Lyft or an Uber on that day at 12:21? Or is that a receipt that came through and it made it look like the Lyft was at that time? The next thing, so we're going to go through the time, date, description, event, source, and mark next to it like wrong. Like, what does it matter? Which ones are wrong? Why do they think it's important to say that Dylan sends Madison, Kaylee, and Josie an Instagram message on 11/12/2022 from Mortensen's phone? Why would that be important? They don't say what it's about. Kaylee and her roommates arrive at Kayla's apartment at 621 Taylor Street. Bucks for all of what I owe you. And that's at 2:30 to 3 o'clock. They're at the Whites. Bethany leaves with Maddie, Dylan, Xana, Ethan, Hunter, Johnson, Josie, Lyndon, Kai, Allie Benson, and Sky Speck to 621 Taylor Street apartment. Kaylee had previously left before them. Kaylee just left by herself. That was at 2. Remember in Dylan's story, she's saying that we stayed at the Whites till probably about like 5. Remember that? So here it says that they left at 2. Showalter and Chestnut at party at the Whites per Showalter. Chestnut says this occurs from 1 to 2. Kaylee and all of her roommates arrive at Kayla's house. They take a picture there at 2:30 or 3. Dylan sends Josie an Instagram message at 3:12. Bethany and Xana leave the party at the Whites at 3:48 because Bethany is looking at her phone. Ethan had left before them. Everyone else is still there. Bethany and Xana go to Allie Benson's house on Taylor Ave. Everybody has different stories, right? Bethany and Xana leave Allie Benson's and return to King Road. Now, Kennedy lives where Allie Benson lives, or roommates. Kennedy said that she never saw Xana on Saturday night. So does this mean that I did see her because she came over earlier? Because it's not clear. Maddie sends an Instagram message to Dylan, Kaylee, Xana, and Bethany. Erica sends Ethan a message saying, "You're getting cheated on." And that's from work product. They're putting work product down, is how they figured that out. That means they don't want to tell the person who said that information. That's at 5:03 p.m. So right there, the police are saying it's work product, and we're not going to tell you who told us that. If it was just from Ethan's phone, why wouldn't they just put Ethan's phone, right? But they call that work product. And that's at 5:03. Erica cheated on. That's that message on Snap. Xana texts Ethan saying she is taking a nap until 8. Dylan receives a phone call from Bethany at 5:36. They talk for 12 seconds. Dylan calls and has a 3-minute and 51 phone call. Number returns to a Natalie Dayton. I looked her up. It's just really interesting. This is when Dylan's saying that she's cooking at 5:44, that she was, they got back to the house and they were cooking and making food. And then they were like sitting on the couch, just like vegging out. And then they went down, took their naps around like 6. But Bethany, Maddie, Xana, Dylan all napped at King House. Dylan says from 5 to 8. 5 to 8. Now, at 7:19, so then there's this gap from 6 until 7:19 p.m. when they want to use the Ford Explorer logs. And it says that the Explorer leaves the King house. How do we know that? Because the logs that we have for Lexus, okay, it didn't tell us where Karen Reed was. So the 2022, this wasn't a 2022, like Ford Explorer, but this Ford Explorer, and they're saying that it leaves King house. I think that they just have movement on it. You know what I mean? But if Xana texts Ethan and says that she is taking a nap until 8, right? Like, where was Ethan? So this explorer leaving the King house, I think it's just moving. So I think that you have to question that. And then at 7:26 p.m., the explorer arrives at Kappa Alpha Theta house. Per Maisie. So that's from the Ford Explorer, though, saying that the explorer arrived at Kappa Alpha Theta house. So was this all GPS? Like the GPS was just running in this thing? I question it. Because I'll tell you why I question it. Because how come at the 7:19 mark, it's saying that the Ford Explorer logs is on page 2453. And then just 7 minutes later, you have to go to page 3,228 of the Ford Explorer logs. Just 7 minutes later, you have to go almost 1,000 pages to then see what the Explorer was doing at 7:26. That makes no sense to me. Per Maisie, formal event at Hungadunga. Ethan, Maisie, Hunter, Chapin, Reagan, Darius, Hannah, Jack Kadovich, and Riley Black attended together and rode in their car. Like, the version here is that all those people packed into the Explorer. Now at 7:59, so they're at the Kappa Alpha Theta house from 7:26 to 7:59. Then at 7:59, the Explorer leaves Kappa Alpha Theta. That's all it says. And it's using page 3228 of the Ford Explorer logs, which is the same page of when it arrives. So hear me out. And that's a 30-minute gap. So with a 7-minute gap, we're almost 800 pages separated. But for a 30-minute gap, what happened at 7:26 and 7:59 are on the same page of the Ford Explorer log? That doesn't make sense to me. Then at 8:04, Dylan calls Maddie, who doesn't answer. She responds with the message, "Can I call you later?" That's one of those like automated, you know. Dylan says, "Yes, we." She's like, "Yes, I called you to wake up and come down." Okay, so what I paid attention to is how Dylan was like saying what she wanted, right? So Dylan says, "Yes, we," and then she uses the letter J. Jay called you to wake up and come down. So Jenna used her phone. You understand how it says, "Yes, we," it doesn't use the I, it says, "Yes, Jay called you to wake up and come down." So then I said to myself, is Jenna there? Who's Jay? Did she mess up the I and the J again? So then during the actual attacks, when she's trying to call Maddie and when she would have texted her, she's a person that describes things. She's not just like this 1-word or 2-word texter. Okay, she's like, "Oh my God, I have to explain to you why I just called you." So think about that. On the night of the murders, same night as this, when Dylan is texting her roommates and calling her roommates, why isn't she asking Maddie, like, what's going on? Like, where are you? Do you hear all this shit? You get what I'm saying? Like, do you hear this crying? Are you crying? Are you okay? Like, are you okay? Or do you hear that? Is that Kaylee crying? Is that Xana crying? Are you crying? Then so there's a possibility that Jenna could potentially be with Dylan at 8:04, by the way. Now at 8:06, Ethan, Maisie, Hunter, Reagan, Darius, Hannah, Jack, and Riley arrive at Hungadunga Brewery. And I'm over here like, where's my Ford Explorer logs? That's what Maisie's saying. They arrive at 8:06 at Hunga. And then the minute later, at 8:07, Ethan tells Xana he is going to her house to change at 8:07. Then Kaylee texts Eric Gower and asks if he is working tonight. Is he working tonight? Then at 8:57, Kaylee posts pictures on Instagram and sends to Xana. Kaylee sends Dylan an Instagram pic. These are like, it's like in a group message, more or less, because it's at 8:57, both those people. And those are the pictures that were taken that were circulating. Again, they use Xana's cell phone for the 2952, or they use Xana and Dylan's cell phones to say that they received those from Instagram. Dylan sends Kaylee an Instagram message and says, "Can you send me those photos, please?" It doesn't make any sense to me. She just sent the photos. Maddie calls Xana at 8:59. Maddie calls Xana. So then I started looking at this, and I'm like, wow, where the last time that an outgoing, so we have an outgoing command on Xana's phone at 5:32. Xana tells Ethan she is taking a nap until 8. Maddie and Bethany leave King House to go to Peter's apartment at Sigma Chi. Ethan and Xana came over after Bethany and Maddie. Kaylee was not going to the Sigma Chi party. Dylan walked to the party alone later. This is in Bethany's interview. Ethan, Maisie, Hunter, Reagan, Darius, blah, blah, all those people, they leave Hunga Dunga Brewery at 9:02. So how could Ethan say he's going to go and change? Hey, I'm going to come and change at your house, right? To Xana, right? But then listen to this. At 9:02, they leave Hunga Dunga Brewery at 9:02. They're not using the Ford Explorer logs until 9:06, when they say that the Ford Explorer logs on page 2530, comma, 3240. So like on 2 different pages. And it's saying that this is when they arrive back at the Kappa Alpha Theta house at 9:06. And they're getting it from 2 separate pages. Then at 9:09, Maddie leaves Sigma Chi party to meet Kaylee and go to the club. That's Bethany's interview. And I'm like, well, where is she getting this? Like, why is she saying 9:09? Like, there's got to be something on her phone during her interview, right? Well, at 9:08 and 9:10, Dylan takes 12 photographs. And then at 9:12, what should be on there is that Dylan, and they don't put it there, is that Dylan turns in a paper. But right before she turns in a paper, she takes 12 photographs. It better be of her paper. Dylan then calls Maddie at 9:18. And this is when Dylan never says about this phone call, but she says, oh, when I left, I ran into Maddie in the White's parking lot. Well, you ran into her because you called her to see where she was, because you needed to get what? That motherfucking bracelet that she was wearing, because you weren't invited to that Sigma Chi party, were you? Because there was only 2 people per person. It was you needed to have a wristband. And so I would love to see the Sigma Chi. Was Dylan on the list? Was Dylan one of, each person got to invite 2 people. But so Dylan calls Maddie at 9:18. 18, and they talk for 14 seconds. They use Dylan's phone to show that. And so we would need to see Maddie's side to see if she actually answered that call for went to voicemail. I believe it was an answered call. Now at 9:21, the Explorer, and this is where the cops say, believed to be driven by Ethan. And anytime that they say that, they're lying. But they need to put this Explorer back over there at King. But they're saying that at 9:21, they have the Ford Explorer logs, and what it's showing is that it's leaving Kappa Alpha Theta. And that was at 9:21. So from 9:06 to 9:21, that Explorer is parked, they're saying, at that sorority house. And so the Explorer is leaving the Kappa house to go, what they say is then at 9:24, ready? The Ford Explorer goes to Sigma Chi. Then at 9:25, literally a minute later, it says the Explorer, believed to be driven by Ethan, leaves Sigma Chi. And then the police purposely put out of the timeline, and they act like this happened at 9:26, but they don't put it right where it should be after the 9:25, which is when the Explorer is leaving Sigma Chi, which had happened between the 9:25 and the 9:27 mark, is this 9:26, which they put 4 spaces away and out of order, out of chronological order. And they put at 9:26, Ethan sends Hunter Johnson a snap message. Drinking with Xana and Bethany, come hang with. That was at 9:26. The only way that he could be saying that I'm drinking with Xana and Bethany is if he is with Xana and Bethany. He can't be driving away in the Ford Explorer. And that's why they put this out of order to see if anybody would catch on. And it's the same thing that they did in the Drake case. And I caught on. So we will put it in when it's saying that the Ford Explorer, believed to be driven by Ethan, leaves Sigma Chi. Well, we have reason to believe that that wouldn't have been Ethan. Then they say that the Explorer, believed to be driven by Ethan, arrives at 1122 King Road at 9:27. Now, in everything that Dylan has said, Bethany, they tried to say that everybody came back to like the house because Bethany mentions as a freshman that was with them. And at first she's like, yeah, we walk over. And then she's like, wait, no. Me and Maddie just walked over. And then we met up with Xana and Ethan. Okay. So here they're trying to put the Ford Explorer back at King Road at 9:27. At 9:31, Dylan calls Xana. Why? Well, to see where they were, right? Dylan called Maddie, though, at 9:18. Then she calls Xana at 9:31. So that would tell you that she is still not with, like Dylan is still not with Xana. And they use Xana's cell. So that's good because that'd be like an incoming call, and that's going to show that it was answered if they're using her cell. Now, at 9:39, Ethan receives notification, Cougar Den, Dylan, Maddie, and Bethany enter new chats. Bethany adds Ethan to the group. And that's from work product. So what that tells me is that has to come from Bethany or Dylan, in my opinion. And they're labeling as work product because for whatever reason they want to protect that. I mean, but Ethan receives a notification at 9:39 to come into this Kruger Den, Dylan, Maddie, and Bethany enter new chats. I would love to know who created the chat, but Bethany was the one that adds Ethan to the group chat. Xana nor Dylan were in the chat. And it was titled Kruger Den. Dylan, Maddie, Bethany, Ethan. No Xana. Then there's going to be an hour gap. And at 10:30 a.m. or p.m., so from 9, that was 9:39. So then there's going to be an hour gap at 10:30 p.m. They go to the corner club. We all know that it's on camera. Now, at 10 p.m., Bethany's friend Yessie arrives at the Sigma Chi party and hangs out with her. 10:08, Bethany calls Claire. No answer. And we should be asking ourselves, why is any of this important? Like, of all the things that are happening, why are the cops deciding to go with some of this stuff? And one of the most underrated pieces right here is at 10:08, this Bethany calls Claire. No answer. That's at 10:08. You would be able to then ascertain that Bethany's calling Claire because Bethany's not with Claire, right? Then now this is where they get this stuff all mixed up. But here in the timeline that the police provide to Bill Thompson, at 10:30 they write that Dylan arrives at Sigma Chi, but really it was 9:30, okay? Because she's in Boise and then she realizes that she's but Dylan arrives at Sigma Chi apartment 4. Ethan, Hunter, Xana, Yessie, Gideon were there. Dylan and Gideon were in and out of the lodge before going to Peter's apartment. Hunter said that he went to bed at 10. Okay. And now, who's this Gideon person, right? Who's this Gideon person? And Dylan is over here saying that Dylan that Dylan and Gideon were in and out of the lodge before going to Peter's apartment. And it's like, well, I have to say, yeah, I was hanging out with this person. Like, this is, Dylan's putting herself at the Sigma Chi party, but who can put Dylan at the Sigma Chi party? Make sense? Bethany and Yessie go to the main house for the Sigma Chi fraternity party. Not like Bethany, Yessie, and like Dylan. Remember, Claire is dating Gideon. Okay? Allegedly, supposedly. Why wouldn't it be that? Why would Dylan and Gideon be going in and out of the lodge? Where's Claire? Bethany is calling Claire at 10:08. No answer. Dylan's trying to say that I was with Gideon, her boyfriend, not her. And if she says that I was with Claire as well, the police just didn't write that down. Well, that's interesting. Because this was from Gooch's interview. Then, now mind you, Bryan Kohberger is purchasing napkins and toilet paper and groceries at 10:34 at Walmart or wherever the fuck he was, Safeway in Pullman. Grocery items. That's what he's doing. Toilet paper, napkins. They got that from the receipts in his apartment. Now at 11:14, Bethany sends Maddie a Snapchat and it says unknown contents and it's photo 132. We need to get that. Allegedly at 11:14 p.m. Dylan sees Xana for the last time at Allie's. Xana is holding a White Claw. She said the same thing about same thing about Maddie, that Maddie had a box of White Claws. Now here, I saw her the last time, and it's either at 11:04 or at 12:04, but I'm going with 11:04 because we know that she was giving things in like Boise time. And now that is a lie. How do we know that? Kennedy, who lives with Allie, okay, says that Xana was not at my house on Saturday night. Dylan says Dylan sees Xana for the last time at Allie's, and Xana is holding a White Claw. She is making up a completely false memory. So let's go back, and then we say to ourselves, okay, where's anything in this? Like, we should be tracking the victims, right? So at 9:31, when Dylan calls Xana, 9:31, suppose he was answered. Xana texts Ethan and says, I'm taking a nap. That's it. That's all we have for Xana. That's what the police have. They have Xana texting and telling Ethan, I'm going to take a nap until 8. And then answering Maddie calls Xana at 8:59 and 9:18 Dylan calls Xana, and then Dylan lies about seeing Xana. Ethan receives a text from Hunter J. Are you guys still at Sigma Chi? And that was at either 11:21 p.m. or 12:21 p.m. a.m. And since they're saying that it's from Ethan's cell phone timeline, then I'm going to say that it's right with it being whatever number that they just have it written as 2421, which is not even a number, but that would be like 1221. But I put it down. It could either be 1121. So they just don't know how to write it. They fucked up. I think it's a typo. Maddie FaceTimes with Ruby. That doesn't matter. Ethan texts yup when responding to Hunter J asking if he is still at Sigma Chi. Yup. Bethany takes photos at 12:03. Unknown location at a party of a girl. What the fuck? What? Dylan takes a photo. They don't write what it's about. It's from Dylan's cell, though. Xana calls Ethan unanswered at either 11:16 or 12:16. Bethany sees Ethan and Xana in Peter's apartment before leaving. Bethany and Yessie walk to Allie's house on Taylor, where Allie, Jenna, Hayden, Kennedy, and Yessie were the only people at the house. And this is the cops have this backwards. Bethany left the Sigma Chi party at like 11 and went to Allie and Kennedy's house. That's the tree house. Then when they all left there, Kennedy is saying that they all left as a group and she walked them to the White's parking lot. And then it's Bethany saying that, yes, she went back to Sigma Chi to get her book bag. And I call bullshit because you would need your book bag with all your beer or whatever, your seltzers, to go drink it somewhere else, right? You just left your drinks there. I don't buy that as a college kid. Like, your drinks are like the most valuable thing to you. Like, I have to have my drinks, right? Unless Bethany didn't care about it because she wasn't drinking. Because somebody says that they're just not feeling it, remember? But here, how can Xana be calling Ethan? That means that they're not together, right? And at the same time, Bethany be saying she saw Ethan and Xana together in Peter's apartment. And nobody else was in there, not to her knowledge. It was just those two. Why the fuck would they be in there? Just chilling in this apartment by themselves, nobody else. Again, what are we doing here? We're creating somebody saying that Xana and Ethan are still alive and up at Sigma Chi. Now, we are waiting to get our hands on the Peter interview. Because right after this, why would Xana be texting? It says, text from Xana to Pistol Pete. You good? Question mark. Bethany calls Jenna McClure on FaceTime. And this is where they're saying that Jenna was able to confirm some stuff. Okay? Because Bethany and Jenna were on FaceTime together at 12:31 a.m. Well, if they're on FaceTime together, then they're not together, right? So where's Bethany when she's on her FaceTime with Jenna? Where's Jenna's second interview? The FBI did it, right? This white/light colored sedan that starts driving around, that begins at either 11:30 or 12:30 on Ridge Road cameras. I put that in and they're getting that to me. They're starting that process. I got Ridge Road camera from 10 p.m. until 6 a.m. I'm getting it all uninterrupted. Ridge Road cameras. Ethan receives a notification from Erica. You're getting cheated on. Again, work product, and they're now assigning it to either 11:43 a.m. or p.m. or 12:43 a.m. So this Erica broad just sends another Snapchat. And it doesn't say, like, did Ethan open it? Did he respond? Nothing. They would know that if they looked and had somebody actually doing what they're supposed to be doing. Why is somebody writing, you're getting cheated on the night that he would be stabbed to death? Nobody thinks that that's relevant. I think that that's really, really relevant. Dylan calls a bro for a ride for her and Lake because Lake is very intoxicated. They go back to 1122 King and watch Vampire Diaries. And she is saying that this happened between 12:15 and 12:30. Well, guess what? The police got it wrong. And it wasn't this person, Dylan, that made that phone call. Gideon, Hayden, one of these other people made the call, she said, for her, because when she was asked to, like, look in her phone, she says in the interview, oh, I trust Hayden. He's super sweet. He's very nice. Like, I trust him. And he's the one that got me the Sobro driver. Okay. That's a lie, right? Who's lying? Kennedy is over here saying that who's she walking? Kennedy's over and of the opinion that she walked Bethany and Dylan to the Whites. And then, yeah, she didn't go any further, but then they continued to walk up Taylor. That's how she worded it. And she went back. And the reason that she's saying she, like, walked up Taylor towards King, and then she said yes. Go listen to that interview again. Why is Dylan saying that they got a sober driver? And why is Dylan want to, like, okay, hey, you come with me. I'm going to take you back to my house to get you to sober up. Why wouldn't you take her home? No offense, but the last thing I want to do is take care of somebody that's fucking drunk and a mess. Sorry, but that's just not what I would want to do. Like, I'll make sure that she gets back to the Pi house. Okay. Like, or hey, we have these sober drivers for a reason. If you're going to come pick her up and take her to the fucking Pi house. But why is Dylan making this up? Because, and then when Dylan's asked, well, we didn't call the sober, like, you'd have to ask Hayden or one of these other guys that ordered it for us. Well, what does Lakeland say? Does she say that she drove in a car? Bethany walks home from Allie's house, which is Allie and Kennedy's house. This time is confirmed by Jenna McClure. How the fuck is Jenna McClure confirming this? So then this is what this would mean. When Bethany was FaceTiming Jenna McClure at 12:31, then Jenna McClure gets over to Allie's house. That doesn't make any sense. Kennedy is of the opinion that all these people came over to her house earlier, 10:30. So here, Jenna wasn't there. She's FaceTiming with Bethany at 12:30, only for them to get together and then, okay, hey, we're at Kennedy's house. And now Jenna is confirming that Bethany walks home from Allie's house at 1, and this time is confirmed by Jenna McClure. How is she confirming that? When she gets there, only Dylan and Lakeland McComas were at the house. That's at 1. Well, let's look at this chart, because now we're going to get into the screams. 1:13 to 1:30, nothing. Right after Lakeland McComas leaves, everything just goes down. So Lakeland McComas leaves the house. Dylan goes to her room, and they're using this 1:22 time frame. And the reason they're using this 1:22 time frame is because of it's so stupid. It's about a picture that Bethany didn't even take. It's really bizarre. Kaylee sends a picture of her and Maddie at the corner club and says, Maddie just called me a buck-tooth bitch, to Dylan, Bethany, Xana, and Ethan. Okay, so it's in a group Snapchat. And that was at 1:22 a.m. And that's funny as fuck to me. Then at 1:38 a.m., picture taken from Xana's phone. That's all it says. Picture taken from Xana's phone at 1:38. Well, 1:38, where's Xana at? Where's Xana? 1:38. What's happening between 1:31 and 2? 2 screams. 1:38. Picture taken from Xana's phone. It's just in her phone. $154. Bethany calls Maddie. No answer. Why? Because right after that, 154, 155, Bethany sends a photo with a message that says, get me some Mac, to Xana, Ethan, Dylan, Kaylee, and Maddie. In there. And they get this from Ethan's Snapchat. Bethany sends a photo with a message that says, get me some Mac. That bitch is hungry. Why does she do this? Because she sees that Kaylee and Maddie are at the grub truck. How would she know that? Get me some Mac. Okay. So what? Bethany's hawking grub truck video, or what? In this, when Kaylee sent a picture of Maddie and Kaylee at the corner club saying, Maddie just called me a buck-tooth bitch, was there any messages between that? Because here Bethany's Bethany calls Maddie, no answer at 1:54. She's in the vehicle with Eric Gower at that time. And then at 1:55, 1 minute before Eric Gower arrives, Bethany sends a photo. I would love to know what the photo is. And it says, get me some Mac. And remember that fork I told you guys about that was up in Kaylee's room? Kaylee And I was like, Kaylee would never just leave that fucking fork there. Like, look at that room is pristine. Why the hell would Kaylee leave a fork like that there? I was like, she wouldn't. She didn't. It wasn't her. It was not her. And what was on it, though? A little bit of that mac, right? Well, fuck, was it Bethany? Bethany grabs a fork and is just diving in and is what plops it there. It just tells me that like Kaylee didn't go back up there after like Kaylee just wouldn't have fucking left that shit there, man. I think that should be tested for DNA. Whose DNA is on the fork? Who is wow. Then at 2 a.m., Kaylee and Maddie arrive home. Girls all go upstairs while Kaylee is getting ready for bed. Taking selfie videos, Maddie and Bethany take Murphy outside. Bethany comes back in after a few minutes. No, bitch, she said 10 seconds. Okay? And this is her version of events. Grabs chips and goes down to bed. Exactly. And where are those chips? They're in the living room, motherfuckers. That's a huge problem for me. Why are the chips in the living room if she grabbed the chips like she said and went down to her bedroom to go masturbate and eat chips? What's happening at 2? What's happening? 2 to 2:24. 3 yells. 2:25 to 2:30. Screaming and yelling. 2:31 to 3. 4, 5. See how they want nothing to do with this? Bethany wants nothing to do with the time frame between 2:30 and 3. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. She wants to say that I went down with Maddie and we went outside. I was outside for like 10 seconds. It was so cold. Then I came right back in. I put something in the cupboard. I grabbed chips and I went down to my bed. We all know it's carbonara mac and cheese. We all understand that. We understand that. Get me some mac and cheese. Bethany, though, before she goes downstairs to take out Murphy with Maddie, Xana takes a picture with Jacqueline Bevelou. Jacqueline leaves Sigma Chi and Xana and Ethan stay. And they're saying that this is at 2. And I'm over here like, this is unreliable. This is wrong. That interview does not say that. She uploads something to Snap. And so she took a picture with Xana that night. We don't know what time the picture was taken between her and Xana. There'd have to be like a really way better interview. But I went ahead and got the interview. 2:01, Cooper Atkinson attempts to call Ethan 5 times on FaceTime, and none of them get answered. Bethany takes several pictures with Murphy and Kaylee's bed. I would love to go through Bethany's phone and see if she normally does that on the weekends. Because she normally taking selfies with Murphy. Dylan sends a message to Eric Uber. Are you driving tonight by chance? Mortensen tells Gooch this is at 3:10 in 11:17 interview because she's in Boise. And then this is what the state tells the grand jury, that Dylan goes to bed after that and everybody goes to bed and there is nothing that happens between after 2:10 and 4 o'clock. That's what they tell the grand jury. They say, look at Dylan received the text from Eric Uber, I am. Dylan tells Gooch that this is at 3:13 again. She says she goes to bed sometime after this, but unsure when. She says is the first of the roommates to go to bed. That's what Dylan says. I'm the first roommate to go to bed. You guys, what are the odds that Xana's phone makes a DoorDash to Jack in the Box at 2:15 when these bitches are talking about and asking, are people hungry? Dylan's starving, Bethany's hungry, and here, Xana, who supposedly is nowhere to be found. And as we heard from Chris Holland, we have no idea where Xana was when she made the 2:15 order. Well, I think that she's with Bethany and Dylan, aka I believe that Xana's phone is with Bethany and Dylan. $2.15. What are the odds that DoorDash would be ordered when these two other people are hungry and trying to? Oh, here, yeah, me too. Like, I'll just order us food. Chris Holland said there was more food than just for one person, and then he's like, "Yeah, I don't think Ethan ate it." Well, then who the fuck did? And when did they eat it? At 2:16, the white light colored sedan turning left from Lauder to Ridge Road. Now, they lie and say that somebody is calling for Murphy and whistling can be heard at 1112 King Road recording at 2:16. Let's see what's going on over there with this lovely 2:16. They're saying that these three yells, and we know what time they're at. Where is this whistling and someone's calling for Murphy at 2:16? You guys, it's not there. It didn't happen. The sound is muted. Probably not. It's just not there. Then at 2:17, barking can be heard on 1112 King recording at 2:17. Then at 2:22, the light-colored sedan westbound on Lauder passing Ridge Road. And this is me showing that this vehicle is out and about way before this 3:36 time. It's because that light-colored sedan that's driving around, you guys, that's the undercover's car. 2:26, Jack D calls Kaylee. They talk for 17 minutes and 4 seconds. It's Jack's cell, and they're using his data. Okay. Then Kaylee calls Jack, not answered at 2:43. 2:44, Kaylee calls Jack, not answered. 2:44, Kaylee FaceTime calls Jack, not answered. 2:47, Kaylee calls Jack, not answered. 2:47, Kaylee FaceTime calls Jack, not answered. 2:50. Now let me ask you something. What the fuck is going on with Dylan's phone at that time that they don't want to mention? Bethany's phone at that time. What's going on with Xana's and what's going on with Ethan's beginning at 2:26? Between 2:26 and 2:47, this very important window. Why are the police not talking about anybody else's phones and what they're doing? They're just not doing anything. Then 2:50, Maddie calls Jack D. Maddie never calls Jack D. He said that this was weird for her to call me. Then Maddie calls Jack D again at 2:51. And then what's happening? Between 2:31 and 3 o'clock. That's the mass. That's the 9. They got 4 screams. You got 5 yells during that time frame of what we're talking about right here, 2:31 to 3. Maddie calls Jack D a third time. Then what gets left out of this whole thing, even Ann Taylor didn't put it on, which was so fucking important. Maddie calls Xana. Xana. No answer. How could the girl that just ordered the DoorDash at 2:15, okay, and it's supposed to be Maddie's calling her. Why is Maddie calling Xana? Well, Maddie calls Xana. No answer. At 2:53, white vehicle traveling southeast on Nevada and Pullman Way towards State Route 270. Okay. That they're putting in Bryan Kohberger. None of that matters because everybody, this has already happened. 2:53, Kaylee calls Jack, not answered. So the other thing that I noticed is that none of the calls on Kaylee and Maddie's phones, they're not calling anybody at the same time. The same thing that happens with Dylan and Bethany's phones when they're texting each other and calling the roommates and stuff like that. There's no overlappage of anything. So it's like, if I was with you here, you call this person, I'm calling this person. Okay. None of that happens. None of that happens. We have each of these girls' phones down to the second. None of it happens. That means that the same person could be using both phones. Just saying. And since we don't have Kaylee's phone, and since we don't have Maddie's phone, and they're using Jack's data for all of this, by the way. They're not using Maddie or Kaylee's to say that these calls happened. And then when they go to the Maddie called Xana, no answer, they're using Xana's cell page 2958. So she must have a missed call from that extraction. That means it's there. That means were calls deleted from Maddie and Kaylee's phones. The police never use ever to say a source from Maddie or Kaylee's cell phones. They're never the source of anything. I know that the one reason is that they don't ever use Kaylee's is because they said that it's a fact. They never got into it. They never downloaded the material. They haven't been able to get into her phone. They can only use her call, like her Verizon call logs. And that's horseshit. Like that what I mean by that's horseshit. It's for what you need to do with this case, those are no good. You need to be able to get into that back end of that phone and to see, just like they did in the Alec Murdaugh case, just like they did in the John O'Keefe, Karen Reed case, just like they do in every fucking case nowadays, because digital evidence is just like DNA almost. They have no sense of urgency to get into who they think is the target, her phone. You got to be on fucking crack if you're going to believe that they just had to hit up the Secret Service and that shit would have been able to be gotten into like that. Why didn't the defense try to get into it? Why didn't they use these Cellbrite experts like the Barnharts and say, hey, were you aware that Kaylee's phone was not, why doesn't somebody ask some hard questions like that to them? Because I think they know what they're doing. But they were just hired to do something completely different. Then after Maddie, so Kaylee's phone never calls anybody but Jack D. But Maddie, she calls Xana, no answer. And then she calls Bethany. And Bethany doesn't answer. And Bethany never mentions this call. Maddie never calls Dylan. Never, not once. Why? Nobody calls fucking Dylan ever. And then that's the last. So Maddie calling Bethany, not answered at 2:53. And then boom, 2:53, Maddie and Kaylee's cell phones never make another outgoing command. And so you want to sit here and tell me, you want me to believe that two college kids who have their phones right next to them and who were not attacked until after 4 o'clock did not use their phones from 2:53 until 4 o'clock? Are you fucking high? Who believes that? That they both just Nobody believes that. Nobody believes that. Who believes that? How could these cops believe that? How do these parents believe that? Listen, Bryan Kohberger could be the guy that did it, but don't you want everybody involved that killed your kids? By letting this just be Bryan Kohberger, is that justice? Ask yourself that. Does that look like it's justice? This was not committed by one fucking person. Bryan Kohberger and who? It's not just him. I mean, look at this evidence. Look at this shit. You got prosecutors lying to you. You're calling him a motherfucker. Okay, on national television, basically, because it's all over the place now. It's pretty much national television. Because he is a motherfucker. He lied to you over and over and over. All they did was lie over and over and over to you guys. And your kids were murdered and they're lying to you. Why? I can understand, hey, I am not going to tell you all this gruesome shit. Like, there's just no way. Like, I could, like, they would. But to lie to people that just lost their kids to a murder? Are you kidding me? Who the fuck does that? Like, how do you do that and you say that you're a badge? That's crazy to me, man. Crazy. Now, the other thing that I want to point out is that this white car that just starts beginning to circle around, guys, the one that they want you to focus on, the one that's the red herring, at 3:25, that's just when it miraculously appears in the middle of the road in Indian Hills Drive. Get out of here. Who was over there on Indian Hills Drive? Gower. Who else? That is the undercovers car, the plainclothes fucking fusion. Because where were they traveling? They were driving around over there, and it was right before they go to the identity. There's two different vehicles that meet at that intersection of where Main Street is. Okay, one of them goes right, and then somebody was in an apartment building that was on right by where Lauder and Ridge is. And we're able to do the math, and we're able to see that the car that's at the intersection is not the same car that is the one that's traveling around. Because the car that's at the main intersection goes right because it goes to the identity apartments to stop none other than Hayden, the guy at the grub truck with the long hair, and now he's got a bump on his head. A fresh little red little, ooh. These girls, especially Dylan, said that when they got home that everybody just went to bed and there was nothing suspicious that happened between 2 and 4. Well, that's going to tell any detective to go ahead and really look at 2 to 4. And you have to even go back further than that. You have to go back and see, then you have Hunter Johnson admitting that he had Ethan's phone, or that he left his phone at their house. Remember all that weird shit? And then you have to have Josie coming forward and saying, oh yeah, I was walking around because I had left my phone in my car. And so I had to go out and get it. And that's why my phone was moving at some weird time. All these just like things like, you guys, when something like this happens, it gives you a reason to remember, when you're notified about something immediately and it impacts you, you're able to 1000% relive that day like you wouldn't believe, right? But if it's something when like a month goes by and then you're asked, hey, what did you do on, November 12th and 13th? And it's just like, what? So I wish you would have asked me on the 14th or 15th what I did. Like, what do you mean? I don't know. 3:51, Dylan creates a phone contact for this Brittany Fernand, whatever the heck her name is. Wouldn't that be somebody that you would be interviewing like right away? That was at 3:51. 3:51, Emily Allant, Venmo, Xana, $14. Emily Allant on social media says that she never did that. At 3:54, Xana texts message to DoorDash, are you having trouble finding it? And I call bullshit on that. I believe that was an automated message to Molly McMichael. Okay, which Molly in her interview says that she never even got a message like that, first of all. She never even got a message like that. It's because Molly, what the fuck, were you even delivering that? Like, what were you doing? It didn't happen the way that happened because Molly, you handed off the food to somebody at 2:50, 2:49, 2:50, didn't you? And you just never hit the button, did you, to say that it was delivered? But then according to Chris Holland, there's a picture of the food next to the door. Yeah, because Molly's all fucked up. She probably thought, oh my God, I didn't give the food. Okay. Or like I said before, Molly, what? You're going back and what do these guys have to make you new food because they didn't think you were coming back? I mean, what are these lies, Molly? What are these lies? It just seems like a really convenient way to like screw DoorDash out of money, and you keep the money that somebody gave to you on campus for you to go and get, and someone paid you $40 to go do. That's what that's what that sounds like to me. Who the fuck wouldn't be blowing somebody up if their DoorDash was an hour and 40 minutes late? That's insanity to me. I'm going nuts if my DoorDash, especially a college drunk kid, being like, where the fuck are you? No. DoorDash sends out automated messages after so long to say, are you having trouble finding it? So that would need to be truly looked into more. Molly's over here talking about somebody looking out of the window and going up and down, up and down, up and down like a fucking roller coaster ride. Molly's saying the word courtyard. You think Molly has the word courtyard in her fucking vocabulary? Are you kidding me? No. You start repeating things that when people ask you a question and they're using verbiage, you then repeat that. Molly McMichael door dashing for 18 hours. That in and of itself is fucking woo, Molly. How could anybody watch Molly's interview and not say, who is this woman? Oh, hell yeah. You know what that happens when it's Chipotle and they have all the wrong shit in there and you're just like, are you kidding me? I wanted this Chipotle fucking bowl and now I have all this shit in there. And then you have to eat it because you're just so hungry. It is the worst. Then this is what they want to say is that, oh, there's someone here. Oh, we're going to slap that and attach that to this DoorDash. What the fuck? What? Yeah, because that sounds like it's the DoorDash order. That's what they put in the probable cause, though, that, you know, basically it was Kaylee's just going upstairs or to say, hey, there's someone here, and then runs downstairs. No, it's she heard, hey, there's someone here. She goes upstairs with the dog, and then it's Xana, that just runs downstairs. Well, if that's the case, then Xana would have ran downstairs at 4? But no, but she writes her at 3:54. And you know what the other thing they want us to believe? They want us to believe that Dylan Mortensen opened her door 4 times, and never once saw Xana, who was supposedly just, you know, here's her food, and she's just going to walk it to the kitchen and pull out a plate and divide everything up nice and say, okay, now I'm just going to take this plate and I'm just going to walk back to my room and I'm going to eat it. And then realize, oh, you know what? I forgot to grab I need some ketchup or I need this. I'm going to go back. And all this time, beginning at 4, she doesn't hear Xana like, oh my God, man, where's this DoorDash woman? Where's this DoorDash woman? Like, or guy, like, what the fuck? Like, she doesn't hear anything like that. And Xana's just walking and she never sees Xana once or hears Xana talking about a DoorDash, talking about food. Huh? Don't you think we would hear in Dylan's wild versions of events? And this is why we know that Dylan's full of shit, because it never came out publicly. We didn't even know there was a DoorDash. Nobody knew nothing. Dylan in none of her interviews, nothing. But don't you think that one of these times, something that wouldn't have made sense is like, yeah, and then I heard somebody talking about like Jack in the Box, or like, oh my God, this is so good. Like talking about food, and or like I heard, the cabinets banging around. I don't know if it sounded like somebody was trying to get like a plate. Nothing. But Xana just is up and about walking around. Yet we're not using anybody's devices to show that there's any movement on any of these phones at any of these times. Because why would we do that? Why would we do that? Because they can't do it. This is what they had to provide to the grand jury to muster up this concocted story, and that this is how it happened and all this crap. It didn't happen like this. It doesn't mean that Bryan Kohberger didn't do it, but they married some fucking bogus ass shit, and it was all lies, versus what Cyree is going to come out in this book and say is, why didn't you just keep going? Like, why aren't you playing the whole tape through? Like, instead of lying about it, right? Maybe there's another answer. Well, I don't give a fuck if Bryan did it, didn't do it. There's more than one person, so fucking you can have Bryan all you want, but without the other people, and to know like truly what happened to your kid, how are you stopping? How are you okay with this fucking bullshit that's never going to go away? I mean, you want to talk about cases that are talked about all the time? This case, if there isn't a move in this case is never going away, because it's so crazy. Because what is being said against what the evidence shows, if you actually don't listen to a 4-minute clip of some fucking idiot on mainstream media that just wants to, push a narrative that they're getting paid to do. It's in front of you. So if you want to ignore it, then that's up to you. And so, no, I'm not going to, when someone says like Scott Reich, hey, come debate me about Bryan Kohberger being guilty, I'm not going to, I'll debate you on the facts of the case. Bryan Kohberger, he pled guilty. That's fine, motherfucker, move over. Go ahead, plead guilty. You did it. Who else did it with you? How'd you ever meet Dylan? How do you know Bethany? How'd you know they wouldn't call 911? How would they just let you I don't know. What? Who else was in the car that you dropped off at 3-something in the morning? I mean, come on. This wasn't an act of somebody upstairs killing 2 people, having blood all over their hands that had gloves and that knife, and then reusing the same gloves and the knife to kill the 2 downstairs, and there not being one swab that you can find where you're swabbing and having the upstairs victims in Xana's room with blood. Did you see Xana? She fought for her life. If somebody has the gloves on and the knife, it's the same from what she did upstairs down with Xana. There is going to be a mixture of Kaylee and Xana, or Maddie and Xana, or Kaylee and Maddie and Xana. There is none, absolutely not one. How do you, as a forensic team, not stop swabbing until you find something like that? They want to talk about the living room. Fuck the living room right now. This person had to have changed clothes between killing in that room and that room. I don't care what happened first. And they want to think that it's the upstairs people. Maybe Kaylee wasn't going to go along with this crazy ass shit that happened. Maybe Kaylee and Maddie were the ones that had to find Ethan and Xana, and they're over here getting ready to blame Dylan and some of her friends. And oh, hell no. Is that going to happen? Dylan doesn't realize that maybe stuff's backfiring. I don't know. But I do think it's another thing that's really interesting, though, is I will say this, that there is no, when they're talking about the lower half of the bodies in upstairs in the third floor, no signs of them ever leaving that room. Yeah, that's correct. Mm-hmm. I don't know. It almost looks like everybody was taken out individually and like lured. And then let's see. And then the cops want to end by saying, so the DoorDash was to extend the life, and then people ate it. Think about that. And then what does it take just to Dylan hears Kaylee singing and playing music and walking up the stairs. She hears Kaylee say something, someone is here, sounding frantic at between 4 and 4:20. White light-colored sedan turns right on Ridge Road from eastbound on Lauder at 401. 404, the white vehicle seen traveling eastbound King Road, stopping and turning around in front of 500 Queen, then back down westbound on King, attempts to park or turn around on the road, continues to the intersection of King and Queen, where it completes a 3-point turn, driving back eastbound on Queen. That's all at 404. Then at 412, Xan is still active on TikTok, which I believe might be 312. And I don't give a fuck what do you mean still active on it? If TikTok can just play on a loop, y'all. So that's absolutely ridiculous. Dylan opens her door for the first time and sees no one. They don't put a timestamp on that. Dylan opens her door the second time, thinks she hears Kaylee crying in the bathroom and a male in the bathroom with her saying, "It's okay, I'm going to help you." Now thinks it may have been Xana in the bathroom. Dylan opens her door a third time. Again, there's no times with this. Sees someone dressed in all black, mask holding an item with a vacuum. They were in at least 3 inches taller than she was. They were approximately 3 feet away from her, walking out of the back sliding door. He looked at her before walking out. Then check out what they do in this fucking book. Well, AKA what Bill Thompson does. Hold on one second. They want to begin with these text messages starting at 4:24. What about the calls? What about the calls? How do you start this shit at 4:24 in this book? AKA they take it straight from allegedly, supposedly, the cops turning over their timeline here, Bill. This is what we have. 4:24, Bethany to Dylan. So am I. You want to know what that tells me? They deleted shit. Shit was deleted. Listen to this. 4:24, Bethany text to Dylan. So am I, DM cell, page 3126. At 4:24, Dylan texts to Bethany, my phone is going to die. Fuck. 4:24, Bethany text to Dylan. come to my room, run down here. You guys, why is it not in here at 4:19 that Bethany calls Dylan? Did they delete these? Could these only be found when you had to like peel back the onion? Were these deleted? The reason I'm saying this is because if they didn't go back far enough with these extractions, right? And they're just like, well, here, we're not like, that would tell me that stuff was deleted, or they're just purposely like not putting that in here, right? But there could be the potentiality that stuff was deleted. I personally think that they were there, and that this is their. How can cops turn this over and say like, yeah, why wouldn't you put in the phone calls? Why aren't you putting in the calls that either one of these girls were making to like the roommates? Instead, this is Bethany texted Dylan, so am I. My phone is going to die. Fuck. Come to my room, run down here. Dylan Snapchat call to Ethan at 4:24, 12 seconds. Guess what on Snapchat? That means it was answered. Guess what happens on Snapchat when someone doesn't answer your call? It says that this person, like when you're calling, like it tells you that. Here, they're using DM cell page 3127. It says DM Snapchat call to Ethan at 4:24. What happens at 4:20 at 4:29? The Explorer shows up. Ethan has it's always been said that because Ethan was laying there naked and only with socks on, right? That because I said, oh, that's interesting that he would have Xana's blood underneath his fingernails. Well, can't somebody just like, I don't know. If you're going to stage the scene, can't you just take off someone's clothes, take off whatever he would have come over there in and take them off? But at 4:24, Dylan Snapchat calls to Ethan. And then at 4:29, 5 minutes later, we have a vehicle arriving at 1122 King Road. Dylan texts to Bethany, I'm screwed though. And it was supposed to mean I'm scared though, right? At 4:24. At 4:25, Bethany texts to Dylan, yeah, I know, but it's better than being alone. 4:27, Dylan opens her door a fourth time, and before going down to Bethany's room, Dylan sees Xana on the floor in her underwear in her room, but doesn't go in. They think that this happened at 4:27. And they say between 4:12 and 4:24 is when Dylan opens her door the third time and to see this man in the black mask. Then at 4:27, Dylan calls Kaylee. Dylan sees a dark colored truck drive by when she gets down to Bethany's room at 4:28. She never put a timestamp on that, but they want to do that because if it should ever come out, oh, this 4:29 call, this 4:29 arrival. There's a vehicle that leaves at 4:24, and I think it's imperative to find out what Claire was driving. There's a vehicle that leaves at 4:24 that they try to say is some girl that works the 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. shift, and she left work to come home and check on her cats, and that was her leaving at 4:24. I got the interview as soon as Moscow gives it to me. Like they already said, like, boom, 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 they're processing it now. We'll put that out. That's a fucking lie. In order for you to come home and check on your cats, your vehicle would have to come there before 4:24, like a couple minutes before, because you're just checking on your cats and then you're leaving. That vehicle is there in its entirety between midnight on, from when we have like the cameras. So the cops lie in a report. So we have to see what this girl says. The 429 vehicle, they don't even mention in here that, comes, and that comes to that house. And we believe it's the Explorer. Where's Hunter Chapin's cell phone to this day? Just like Molly's cell phone, they're both gone. Dylan calls Xana at 4:28. Bethany calls Madison at 4:30. Bethany calls Kaylee at 4:31. Dylan messaged to Kaylee, please answer, at 4:32. 4:45, neighbor Braden Powell. Here's a dog. Stop barking. Sounds like someone let him in. Activity sensor data reports. At 5 o'clock in the morning, Dylan traveled 30.77 meters at 5. At 5:25, a white vehicle traveling northbound Johnson Road, then north on Bishop Boulevard and northwest on South State Route 270. They're still talking about, then they go back over here to say, hey. Bethany wakes up and tries calling her dad about her tooth at 7:30. He doesn't answer. At 8 a.m., activity sensor data reports Dylan distance traveled 3.52. At 8 a.m., Bethany tries to call her dad again, no answer. At 8:01, Bethany tries to call her house, no answer. At 8:02, Bethany calls her mom and says she needs to talk to her dad. At 8:09, Bethany talks to her dad, takes an Advil, and falls back to sleep. 9. Activity sensor data reports Dylan distance traveled 3.52, the same distance that was traveled at the 8 o'clock mark. Per law enforcement FBI report, Kohberger's phone pings in the area and matches the description, and that's from 9:12 to 9:23. Dylan sends 7 outgoing messages via Snapchat and receives 2 incoming. Content of the messages are unknown to this day, and that was at 10 to 10:01 a.m. Dylan accesses Indeed's site on her phone at 10:03. At 10:04 to 10:23, Dylan sends and receives multiple Snapchat messages. Contents of those messages are unknown to this day. 10:08, Justin Nadeau leaves for a walk, and the door at that house, the front door, is wide open and is wide open when he walks his dog both ways. 10:23, Dylan texts Maddie, are you up? 10:29, Dylan texts Kaylee, are you up? 10:31, Kohberger selfie in apartment bathroom. 10:49, Bryan at the Washington Trust ATM, Pullman, Washington, pulls out $100 in cash. 10:52, Ethan receives notification that this Sean kid sent a chat. Activity sensory data reports Dylan total samples count 3, distance traveled 120.75, flights climbed 2, and that's at 11 a.m. Let me tell you how you get 2 flights of stairs. She would have had to either have done one of the 2 things. From the bottom floor to the second floor, back down, back to the second floor, and back down. That's going to get you 2 flights. It has no bearing on going down. Or she goes up to the second floor and then up to the third floor and then comes all the way down to the first floor. That's 2 flights. And that sensory data report is at 11 a.m. And so that would have had to happen between 10 and 11. Bethany says she wakes up at 11. Ethan receives notification that Maisie, little sis, said, sorry, I fell asleep at 11:09. Dylan is on Instagram and Snapchat sending and receiving messages. Content of messages are unknown to this day. And that was from 11 to 11:32. At 11:20, Jenna McClure sends a text to Bethany to see if she is awake. Dylan sends a snap to Maddie asking if she is up at 11:23. That's in her interview, but the police corrected and they say DM phone records show this was at 10:23. So she's trying to say that she was calling and texting them way more than she was. The only person, like Bethany's phone does not have her calling or messaging any of the roommates after she does that at 4:00 in the morning, that time frame. When she wakes up in the morning, she's not like calling them, texting them, nothing. She never did the entire morning. Dylan accesses Yik Yak. Dylan accesses TikTok at 11:35, 11:36. At 11:37, 11:38, Dylan sends and receives Snapchat messages. Content of messages are unknown. At 11:39, 11:40, Dylan gets a message from her dad. Hey, DMM, because her middle name's Marie. When can I call you today and just chat? Does one work or is two better? Dylan responds. Dylan responds, 2 works better. Message from dad. Okay, I'll call you at 2. Just 5 or 10 minutes. Want to catch up. 11:49. Bethany calls Jenna McClure saying that her roommates aren't answering. Bethany never calls her roommates. And now, this is what should blow everybody's mind. They say that they do this from a Cellbrite report, page 53. And that is the first time that you see the word Cellbrite written in this entire printout. And it's because I believe that they took Jenna McClure's phone and they downloaded it and they used Cellbrite on it. Bethany calls Jenna McClure saying that her roommates aren't answering. They're using a Cellbrite report, page 53. They could have also used Bethany's phone with a Cellbrite, but they didn't do a full file extraction. I don't have them doing that at all. I think that's a typo because then they say a 911 call placed by Bethany Funk at 11:56 was a Cellbrite report, page 53. And so I think that that's not accurate when they're saying Cellbrite, but Dylan calls Emily Allant via Snapchat 1 minute and 48 seconds at 11:50. Dylan receives a message from Jenna saying, bro. Dylan texts Emily about what happened last night and the masked man. Emily tells Dylan that this is at 10:05 though, not 11:50, because that was Boise time. 10:50. And that would make sense at the 11 a.m. report where we're talking about 2 flights of stairs. Okay. At 10:50, Dylan texts Emily about what happened last night at 10:50. That would have been after she takes her 2 flights of stairs, which would have either been going up to the second floor twice or going up to the second floor, then the third, and coming down. Jenna texts Dylan, do you guys need me to come get you? Not like, are you guys going to call the police? Dylan accesses Instagram again. At 11:56, 911 call is placed by Bethany's phone. Everybody can get straight fucked if they believe all this. Great. Bryan Kohberger spending the rest of his life in prison. Who else should? With that, Friday. Woo! What do you guys think? I'm going to go to the chat here. What do we think? Well, wow. Deborah says, I'm really humbled and proud. 37 months. That's awesome. Thank you so much, Deborah, for your support. Italian girl, love the name. The only baby I've ever had, and it was with you. Working on number 2, girl. Cyber Ninja, new member. Thank you so much. Cyber Ninja says, drip, drip, drip is the pace of documents. Yes. Ange says, I want to be a new member here. I love it here. Birdie says, Lana, I'm going to send you a DoorDash. What do you want to eat today? Now I'm in the mood for Chipotle. I always talk myself into this shit. I'm playing golf today. I'm going to play my dad and I'm going to beat his ass. I told him if he doesn't beat me, because I said I'm rusty, he should be able to take me. Black Cat and Jam. Thank you so much, Karen. She made 10 people turn green. Awesome. Thank you, Karen. You fucking rock. Ange says, if you really want to get mad, go back and rewatch last year's Prime series. It is so full of lies. Maybe we should do a Prime series rewatch, especially by Hunter and Emily. Hunter says that they randomly woke up at 3 a.m. and locked their door. Mm-hmm. I'm with you 100, Lana. A little something toward your FOIAs. Thank you so much. Yeah, I mean, this is straight extortion. We were able to get them down a lot on the federal grant stuff. Like, this is supposed to be stuff that you are supposed to be able to examine and to see how this federal money is being spent. And I think it's going to expose some shit on 11/13, 11/12 that night, because it has to tell you, they have to like write out all this shit. And they were 1,000% using overtime. They had their plainclothes people there, and it was 1,000% for this SFE blah, blah, blah grant. So let's see how they reported it. Babies everywhere, 33 months. Yes. Again, give it up for MarcB. I think that this is a very comprehensive breakdown. You can go check it out on his channel. It's Idaho4, the Screams timeline. Go give him a like, subscribe. I can't tell you how many countless hours me and Mark have had until I'm like, okay, oh my God, it's 3 o'clock in the morning. I got to go to bed. But he puts in the time and he wants the truth. He believes that the feds did a lot of lying here, and they did. They did. And it's like, how do you trust people after they've lied to you? So if I was a parent, I'd have a huge problem like with believing anything that they had to say. I'm just like, give me the material. Like, give me the material. And here they have to do the same thing that we have to do. FOIA stuff, and then when they try to get stuff from the FBI, they're denied. I mean, come on. I just hope that goes the WSU lawsuit. It should be about holding people accountable and about getting the truth out. And so if Bryan Kohberger was a CI for WSU and he was like doing controlled buys and sells, that needs to come out. If any of these kids were talking to the cops, that needs to come out, because kids in college should not be used. There's no place for this in education, period. Go make your shit cops somewhere else. Go use your Mollies of the world. But to attempt to persuade a young person who is impressionable and threatening them in a way that's like, this could ruin your life if this comes on your, if you have this on your record, you're not going to be able to be a teacher. You're not going to be able to have this. This is going to be on your background check. All this crazy ass shit. A kid that makes a mistake when they're, 19, 20, 21 years old, 22 years old, that mistake should not be exploited. And it's being exploited. It's being exploited on these campuses, and it needs to stop. Because then when people would find out, wait, what do you mean you're ratting me out? Hey, but you had no problem doing the drugs with me. But now, since you got caught, you want to try to like throw me and other people into this. Don't you think it's going to cause problems? Here, we need you to do a controlled buy. Here, you get pulled over for a DUI. A DUI. You get pulled over for minor possession. Where'd you get this from? These little plainclothes operations that they say that that they're getting government fucking federal money for to go and do this. And it's keeping our campuses safer. Really? Because the front headlines are going to read federal grant money used during the Idaho4 murders, because that's the truth. That's what happened on 11/12 and 11/13. And that only happens 2 times a year, according to their reporting. What are the odds of that? Maybe the people at WSU were like, hey, we need to get our name out of the limelight. So because Moscow's over here always looking peachy clean, we need to fucking go ruffle some feathers over there. Who knows? We got people lying that are law enforcement officers, and it's clear as day. And then we have the main witnesses lying, and it's clear as day. And then we would have category B witnesses that are lying, and it's clear as day. And y'all should ask, why? Why are we lying about this timeline? What time were truly Ethan and Xana? What were their true whereabouts? Thank God we were able to have, we have Maddie and Kaylee down because of surveillance cameras. But after they enter that home at 1:56, you can't sit here and fucking tell me what time anything happened. Get fucked. And you can't do it by no car, especially a car that you're saying that was basically the secondary crime scene that is spotless. Yeah, because he cleaned it. Oh, he did? Okay. Sounds good. We all drive cars. Do you know how hard it is to clean your car? Do you know how hard it is to clean your car? How hard it is to get in all the little crevices? And we're always just like so pissed when like we can't get to like, and then it's like, okay, I'm gonna have to have my car detailed for $300 fucking if I want it to be like brand new. It's propaganda. Don't believe it. Believe the numbers. Okay. Listen to the interviews yourself. Ask the hard questions. Do not just go with what they want to push, because they pushed it from the beginning. Bethany and Dylan never said, not once, that Ethan and Xana were home and that they saw them that night. And that's what was put in the probable cause to lead it all off, which is lies. That's it. We'll see you on the next one.